shawty, you can't lie.
Yes, sir. Come on. Yeah.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Ikon E. And once again, we on 910 Sports TV. First and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity, because without him, it'd be no us. Next, I got my right-hand man to my right of me. You know what I'm saying? I got the Cowboys' biggest lover in the world, the only guy I think that sleep in his hat. I got Jacob the Great. What's going on, brother?
Hey man, another day to get it right. Glad to be in the land of the living. And you know what it is. Respect that star.
And next, I got my other brother, man. You know what I'm saying? One of the best coaches in the land, up and down that East Coast. He said he one of the best fishermen in the world too. While you playing, I got Coach Goins in the house. What's going on?
Hey, listen, man. It's another great night to be on with you, fine gentlemen. We're gonna keep Jacob lifted up in prayer. Just like Coach Capel said, he rocking that even before the season starts. So I don't know what we're gonna when they go 0-2. We might have to send out a mission.
Coach, hold on, man. Don't be talking that blasphemy, man. That's just like a pastor going in the pulpit and you talking before he say anything.
Well, listen, we'll take up an offering. All right, we'll take an offering and we'll donate for you for the cause. But hey, listen, I'm excited that again tonight, and again, just like every other week that we're on. But most importantly, I want to appreciate and introduce none other than Jeff Capel, head men's basketball coach at the University of Pittsburgh. And I got some stuff written down. And appreciate Jacob doing a little pregame work here. So here's some stats: 289 career head coaching victories. He's been in the NCAA Tournament, four appearances. He's former ACC Coach of the Year. He has 19 NBA first-round draft picks, 11 NBA lottery picks, 25 McDonald's All-Americans recruited, 6 top 10 recruiting classes. He was a 4-year starter at Duke University. Went back to Duke University, was assistant coach, won a national championship. He's been with USA Basketball. He is a winner from top to bottom. And I want to introduce none other than Coach Jeff Capel. Welcome to 910 Sports TV.
Appreciate you guys having me on, fellas. Look forward to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So hey, listen, hey Jake, let me show you how to be politically correct, man. You see my top? All right, yeah. All right. And I'm a Steeler fan. Don't forget, lifelong Steeler fan, right? So I've been in the Steel City a long time. But hey, Coach, here's where we want to go. I'm gonna kick off a question right off the bat. Let me apologize. He is a proud husband and a father of 3 beautiful children, and do not want to go unmissed. It's all about work-life balance. So we appreciate his family and everything that he does on and off the court. So, guys, I'm going to kick it off, and I'm going to take Coach, and I'm going to read. I got a list of names. And as a basketball coach, when you hear these names I read off, I want you to tell us, how would you play these guys, and what type of success you think you can have with this team. So I got it saved right here on my notes page. And here's the players. So if you had Nick George, Eric Maynard, Blake Griffin, Bub Carrington, Justin Champagnie, Blake Henson, and Jamaris Burton.
A lot of wins.
A lot of wins.
A lot of wins. You have elite point guard play with Maynard. He's the best point guard that I've coached. But he and Bub could play together. Bub is more of a combo guard. You got a sniper with Henson that can shoot it from wherever. You got a guy that's probably one of the most unique players I ever coached in Nick George and Justin Champagnie. Justin was a guy you never had to run a play for, elite level rebounder. And then the best player I've ever coached anywhere I've ever been is Blake Griffin. He's the guy that I compare. I was fortunate. I got Blake my second year at Oklahoma, and that was my 6th year as a head coach. And I coached some really good players up to that point. But when I got him, I realized that summer when we started working, I thought he was different, but I realized how different he was. And from that point on, he has kind of been the standard of when I look at a great player that I have a chance to coach, or a guy that I think has a chance to be great, he's the measuring stick. So that team will win a lot of games.
Yeah, so and just for you guys, for Icon and Jay. So what I did, I had to go in the laboratory and think back and say, man, who I thought some of his greatest players were, and that's why I wanted to toss that question out. So listen, I see Icon, he's ready to go, and I don't know if he got any eligibility left. So we'll kick it up. We'll kick it up to you before time expires.
No, not when it come to playing with Jeff. You know, Jeff was a living legend back in our day, man. We still talk about him to this day. And like I told him before, I want to give him his flowers. You know, his family was like royalty to us when it comes to, his dad and his granddad, and they was like the Kennedys. They was like the Mannings back home in Moore County. So let me ask you this. What was it that your granddad and your dad instilled in you and showed you early on to push you to be for your success?
Well, my dad and my grandfather, I mean, they're the two greatest men that I've ever known. Um, growing up, first and foremost, I was very fortunate to have a father at home and a dad that wanted to be a dad. Um, Obviously, he was a coach, but for me, he was just my dad. And then, we grew up there in North Carolina. We moved a lot when I was younger, but from second to the end of fifth grade, we lived right there in Southern Pines. And it was the coolest part probably of my childhood because I was probably about 5 blocks away from my grandparents. And so I saw them every day. I would ride my bike over there. And so having those two, what my grandfather did in the state of North Carolina in Moore County with helping integrate North Carolina, the leader that he was, the businessman that he was. For me, I think the thing that always stood out is that, like, when I was little, it seemed like he knew everyone and everyone knew him. We would ride in the car or in his pickup truck and he waved at everyone. I'd go on walks with him and it was the same thing. And so just, what they instilled in me, first and foremost, is to try everything you can to be a good man, to be a good husband, to be a good father. That's the most important thing. And then whatever it is you try to put your mind to that you want to do, have a passion for it and try to be the best that you can. Treat people the right way, treat people with respect, with love, with care, and just try to be there to help people. When I was younger and when my dad kind of started making a name for himself when he got the job at Fayetteville State, he became a college head coach. I would go with him. Sometimes he would go speak at clinics and, he would, sometimes people would ask for his autograph. When he became a head coach at Old Dominion in Division I, he started to have some success. He would speak at more clinics and he would get asked for his autograph. And my dad would always write "help others," and then he would sign his name. And so I grew up in a family because that was my grandmother and my grandfather to a T. Like that is what they did in Southern Pines. And so I grew up kind of with that instilled in me, that's what life is about helping people, helping others.
Okay, before I throw it over to my other partner, Jacob, how many times did you do a backflip at the Cardinal Club Pier?
Man, I wish I could do a backflip. I used to be envious of those guys that could do backflips there. I never could do it. I probably was afraid to do it. I was afraid of getting hurt or landing the wrong way. But I jumped off that pier, man, probably millions of times as I was down there.
Go ahead, Jacob. Jump in.
So, Coach Jeff, it's good to meet you, man. So, I'm from South Carolina, a state over from you. So, I used to hear my dad them because a lot of my family went to South Carolina State University. So,
Yeah.
I used to hear my dad, talk about this infamous coach. Your father. And I said, who? And then me and him sit down and watch the game, and he said, "Oh, that's his boy right there." And I'm a Tar Heels fan, so and my dad was a Georgetown fan, So he used to say that coach I used to tell you about, his boy just beat y'all. Look at that, look at that jumper he hit. And it was this running jumper, double overtime, and he said, "Hold your head up, congratulate him." And so I'm always remember that, man. So with you being at Duke, and I hear a lot of coaches on these interviews, and they say if we can just get in the mind inside the head of Coach K, and you not only play at Duke, but you coach too. So, what would you say that is like of getting that game and soaking up and getting that education from Coach K? Because I've never had a player on here that played at Duke and one that beat North Carolina. So, I'm interested to see what is those conversations like and what is that education like that you receive from him.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I got two different types of education from Coach. I got him being my coach when I played there for 4 years. And then I went back there and I was his assistant coach for 7 years. So it was almost like I got my undergraduate from Duke, from the university, but also Duke basketball. But then I got my graduate degree when I went back there and I worked for him. As a player, it's interesting. Like, I grew up a Carolina fan. I would tell my parents every day when I was younger that when I get older, I want to go to Carolina. I want to play for Coach Smith. That was my dream school. I had Carolina posters on my wall. Normally I wore all Carolina gear. So that was my dream. As I got older and I started to understand recruiting, and I got to a point as a player where I was thought of to be good enough to be recruited by both programs. The thing that attracted me probably more so to Duke was Coach K reminded me a lot of my dad. The very first time I went to Duke, it was after my sophomore year in high school. And my dad, my brother, my high school coach, and myself, we drove up for an unofficial visit. And I spent a few hours there. The last 45 minutes to an hour I spent with Coach in his office. And when we left and we were driving home, I was quiet in the car. And anyone that knows me, especially when I'm around my family, I'm not really quiet. And after about 10, 15 minutes, my dad was like, "Yo, man, what's wrong with you? Like, you're quiet. Like, what are you thinking about?" And I told him right then, like, that's the guy I want to play for. It was like in that moment, because he reminded me so much of my dad. And what reminded me of my dad was, and Lamont knows that my dad was like a no nonsense. He was a straight shooter. There was no BS. And you never had to wonder where you stood. Like, it was the truth all the time. And it was unfiltered. And that's the way I grew up, man. Like, just confrontation, whatever. And I think my dad has a military background. Coach K has a military background from being at West Point. And so what I learned there, my 4 years as a player were really interesting. My first year, we played for the national championship, got to the Final Four, got to the finals. We lost to Arkansas. That was the seventh time in 9 years Duke had been to the Final Four. It was the third time in 4 years they played for a national championship. And so the thinking is, we'll get back there. I'll have another chance. We never got close again my last 3 years. I was there the year Coach K was out. So we go from playing for the national championship to the next year. We're 2-14 in the ACC. We're 13-18. We don't make the tournament. The thing I was most proud of in my playing career and what I learned was that it's not given, it's earned. You have to fight. And you have to fight for it. You have to go through stuff. Sometimes if you get your nose rubbed and you know what, it's a lesson in that. And I wouldn't have been able to survive the things that I had to deal with after I left Duke, especially some health things, some things with the jobs that I've been in, if I didn't go through those adverse times when I was in college. When I went back to work there, it was really different because I got to then see stuff made sense more when I went back there and worked with how he coached me. The things that he did when I was a player that I thought, man, I don't like this. I don't like the way he's talking to me. I don't like the way he's treating me. I don't like what he said. I don't like what he did. When I went back there and worked, those things made sense. I wasn't supposed to understand as an 18 to 22-year-old. As you get older and you get out into the world and you start to experience things, it's like when we're younger and you're growing up, like you think your parents are hard, they don't make sense, and you get in your 30s and you start having kids and you're like, man, my mom and dad were right the whole time, the stuff they were telling me. And so that's what it was when I went back there and worked. I understood how to run a program. I was very fortunate, obviously, to be around Coach, but to be around Chris Collins and Wojo, who went on to be really good head coaches themselves. And so it was a really unique experience.
Huh.
Jacob.
Coach Goins. Coach Goins.
Man, now listen, that's a Pittsburgh guy, right? Answering that Cowboys question, eloquently done, like it's all. And I there was no doubt about it. So, Coach, here's where I want to go, man. And Ikon, I appreciate that question when you talked about his grandfather and his dad. And as I sat here, and I'm just going to be transparent with what I'm getting ready to say. My first time doing anything with media was with Uncle Felton, which is Jeff's grandfather. When he asked me to be with him to do Pinecrest football, basketball, and baseball on the radio when I was a junior in high school. So I want to appreciate Uncle Felton for the time that he invested in my life, and look where I've been on ESPN radio and now with you guys. And then for his dad, right, who was my high school coach. And I was a snotty-nosed freshman, and he said, hey, I want you to be my manager. I said, you got to talk to my mama. And so he came to the house and he said, Edna, I need Lamont. And I'll never forget that conversation. I was sitting at the kitchen table like watching the tennis match. And she said, Jeffrey, and she said, as long as you take care of him, he's yours. And your dad is, and I refer to him, and I talked to your mom earlier today, and he's always coach. I never called his dad by his name, even though we're related. He was always my coach. And just on behalf of myself to you publicly, I want to thank you for always sharing your dad with his former players, but most importantly, for me, because I would not be the man I am today without your dad in my life. So here's my question to you, Coach. If you had an invitation for lunch and you walked into the restaurant and there was a table for 4 and you were occupying one space, who would be the other 3 people you want to be at that table?
Yeah, it would be my dad. It would be my grandfather. And then the other person, for me, it probably would be, I probably would pick for that table because, again, I'm looking at my dad, I'm looking at my grandfather. I know it's going to be a lot of jokes, a lot of laughs. It's going to be a lot of that. And so I probably want someone, man, like Richard Pryor. You know what I mean? Just to, you got Richard Pryor can be serious, but also he's the funniest man ever, and stories that he has, and also someone that my dad and grandfather admired and listened to and things like that. So that it would certainly be my dad and my grandfather.
Excellent. Well, before I got one more. So you had the honor to go back last year to Southview High School, and your jersey was retired. What a great honor, because there's not a lot of people that have that. So walk us through that. How did it feel going back and walking in and
Yeah. It was really cool, man. It was surreal, and the coolest part was I got to take my kids. My oldest daughter didn't go with us because she had a game. She was playing varsity basketball on her girls' team in high school. And so they had a game. But my middle child, my middle daughter, and my son, I got to take them back with me. I hadn't been back to Southview since I went back when they named the court after Coach Miller, my high school coach, Ron Miller. And Coach Miller was still alive then. So I went back for that. So the coolest part was going back, taking my kids, seeing some of my former teammates, former classmates, some of the managers from that team, the assistant coaches, Jeff Gainey and Greg Beasley were there, and just being back there, man. And it brought back so many memories. When I was at Southview, Back when I was coming up there in Fayetteville, you didn't start high school to 10th grade. So we moved back to Fayetteville when I was going to 9th grade. My dad tried to get the city to allow me to play varsity when I was in 9th grade. They wouldn't do it. So I played junior high. That was the first time I had ever played against anyone my age when I was coming up. And, before, so again, I was born in Fayetteville, moved to Southern Pines, moved to Winston-Salem, moved back to Fayetteville. Prior to moving back to Fayetteville in 9th grade, I always played up. I was 11 playing 14 and under. I was 13 playing 16 and under. And so that was the first time I played against anyone my age. And so when I got to Southview in 10th grade, I was walking into a really good program. Coach Miller had established it. There were a few seniors on that team that were really good. But then, there was so much success. Like during my 3 years of high school, our football team won a state championship. Baseball won a state championship. Softball won multiple state championships. Tennis won a state championship. And wrestling won a state championship. And so for me, it was like, I got to win one. And the fact that we were able to do it my senior year with that group of guys, I actually think my junior year was our best team. We lost to Gary Stackhouse's team in the state semis, in a great game. But it was surreal being back there, and it was a great honor, especially to be able to take my kids there and see that.
I appreciate it. All right, Ikon, I see you got them feet behind that stripe, so go ahead and knock that shot down.
Yeah, and then I heard it was Stackhouse and McGinnis on the junior team, right?
Well, nah, it was Stackhouse, Chuck Jones, Charlie McNary. Those are the main guys for Kinston High School. So me, Stack, and McGinnis, we played AAU together the summer after my junior year, going to our senior year of high school. And then Stack and Stack and Jeff McGinnis, Stack transferred to Oak Hill.
Yeah.
So when we were all in 10th grade, Jeff McGinnis' team won the state championship. I think they beat Stackhouse's team. Jeff was at West Charlotte. And after that year, he transferred and went to Oak Hill. West Charlotte, I think, won it again our junior year. Stackhouse's team, Kinston, didn't win it. And then we were able to come back my senior year and win.
Yeah, because I remember watching the one that you won your senior. I think I watched. It was some local station back then in Southern Pines. I can't even remember what station it was. They were showing the game. So I do remember that back then. So let me ask you a question.
Worst game I played in high school, man. I was horrible in that game.
Yeah, you did look a little nervous. I wasn't going to say that, Jim.
Nervous.
But you did look a little nervous that game. I wasn't going to say that. I was going to leave that one alone.
It was absolutely no nerves. What happened was that before the game, they opened up a brand new basketball. We played with a ball that hadn't been broken in, and I sweat a lot. And so I could never hold the ball. I could not grip the ball the whole game. It was like falling out my hand. I couldn't handle it and things like that. And fortunately, down the stretch, I was able to make the last two baskets to win and get us the state championship. But, yeah, it was not a good game by me. My teammates were great and kept us in it.
The Dean Dog.
Yep.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. So what has it been like, the transition in the ACC? Now y'all got to go all the way to the West Coast and Texas to play these conference games. I know y'all think it's crazy because the fans, we looking like this is the most ridiculous thing, especially as always it's been around since it was like 8 teams. So what's really going on?
No, it is crazy, man. If you look at, like, we grew up in North Carolina and the ACC that we grew up on, it was 8 teams. By the time I got to college, it had expanded. Florida State was in it. And so it expanded a little bit. Now, with 18 teams in the league, last year we took the West Coast trip to Stanford and Cal. For them, I mean, you think about Stanford and Cal, they got to do that like every other week.
That's correct.
And the closest one for them is SMU, which is halfway across the country. It's not something I think that's conducive for the student athlete and for the student athlete experience. It's all driven by money. It's all driven by TV. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality. Just like most things are driven by money and, driven by TV. And, you got to make the best of it. Stanford, Cal, and SMU have added a lot to our league. Stanford is one of the biggest brands in anything. Stanford University. It was amazing being on their campus. I spent some time just walking around, and you think of the people that have been on that campus and have walked those grounds. Cal is a world-class academic institution and has had some great basketball tradition there and some really good teams. SMU is a beautiful campus, a really good school, and so they all have brought some really good things to the ACC. It just still is kind of amazing that, you go from the East Coast to West Coast to play a conference game. That's something that's a little bit out of whack.
So before I throw it back over to Jacob, just off of talent wise, give me your 4 best. I'm gonna give you 5. Who was your 5 best player? Because you didn't coach some monsters. Who was your 5 best players you would coach up to this point?
Just talent wise.
Just talent wise.
And just in college, like we're
not just in college. Just in college.
Okay. Blake Griffin, Jason Tatum, Jalil Okafor, Jabari Parker, and probably the 5th one, if you go by just talent, I probably would say Marvin Bagley.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said who? Who's the last one?
Marvin Bagley.
Marvin Bagley. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Second freshman in the history of the ACC to be Player of the Year. Jalil Okafor first.
Okay. Go ahead, Jacob.
So, I know you big on family, so am I. So I want to kind of pry a little bit in them battles that you and your brother had on the basketball court. And with seeing those battles, what was your dad take on those battles? Because he got boys that's on this court and they going at it. Because once you get on the court, I don't know you, you don't know me. We just going at it. And so for him to sit back and watch, I'm pretty sure he had some interesting thoughts, as he sit down and talk to both of y'all.
Yeah, well, I think more than anything, he was proud. Both of his boys were able to achieve their dream. The first thing is that we both found something that we loved, which is playing basketball. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because more than anything, we both loved being with our dad. And because we both loved being around our dad, that meant we were in a gym a lot. Like my childhood, I grew up in a gym. When Lamont was in school, I was my dad's ball boy. I was probably the worst ball boy because all I wanted to do was shoot.
That's right.
And my dad went to Wake Forest. My brother and I got to be ball boys. I was a ball boy. We were there 6th through 8th grade. I think by the time I got to 8th grade, I thought I was too cool to be a ball boy. But same thing, I wanted to shoot. And so I think the thing my dad would feel is just pride in, his boys wanting to do something that my dad loved. And, we fell in love with it too. We had battles, it's a 5. My brother and I are 5 years apart. And so, the battles, like I won a lot of them, really all of them, until we both got older. My brother shot up. Like my brother in 7th grade was like 6'3". He looked like he was on our team at Southview. I'm 6'4". My brother ended up being 6'8". And the last time we played, I was the head coach at VCU. And my brother had come up to see me in Richmond. And I don't know if we had workouts. I can't remember what happened, but somehow we were in the gym. And after, whatever was going on with my team, I was out there kind of like shooting, messing around. He was out there. We were just messing around shooting. And it ended up, we played 1-on-1. And he beat the hell out of me. And I get pissed. So we're going to play again. And he beat me worse that time. And that's the last time we played. I knew then, all right, I can't play with him. I can't play against him anymore. Like he's got me now.
Okay. And so, Coach, while you was in college, what five players, opponent wise, you know, gave you trouble?
Well, if you look at the guys that I had to guard,
Hmm.
probably the most difficult guy that I played against was that gave us buckets, was Randolph Childress.
I
Mhm.
knew you was
Mercy.
gonna.
That was
I knew
Woo!
you was gonna say that. I knew you was gonna say
yeah.
Yes,
that.
sir.
If you remember the historic run Randolph had in the ACC tournament, their
Yes.
first game was against us, and we were up 31-13, and they called timeout, and they come out of the timeout. Randolph hits a three, Rusty LaRue hits a three, Tim Duncan hits a jump hook. So they go on an 8-0 run. It's 31-21. We call timeout. They come out, and I think Randolph ran off like 18 or 19 straight points. And that's what started that whole thing. Stephon Marbury was a problem in his 1 year at Georgia Tech. Funny, like the first time we played them, he was a year behind me. Steph was 2 years behind me. And so, we played them. No, he was a year behind me. And so we played them at our place the first time. I think he maybe had 2 points at halftime, and we were up. We come out and we're getting ready to start the second half and waiting on TV to cue it up. And Steph comes up to me and he's like, "Kate, man, I tried to get these dudes involved in the first half. Now I got to take over." He had 25 in the second half. And so the combination of speed,
Man.
power, athleticism, and he was the rare New York point guard at that time. He could really, really shoot. So those two guys, but if you look at, like, I was in school for 4 years playing against Tim Duncan. You know what I mean? The two most talented players that I played against, just as far as talent, were Rasheed Wallace and Vince Carter. Those two guys were the most talented guys. Obviously, Stackhouse was a problem. McGinnis was a problem. Back then, it's so different than it is now. And I'm not saying it's super talented right now, but back when I played, you had old talent. Think about it. Tim Duncan was in school for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Keith Booth, Vince Carter, and Antoine Jameson were in school for 3 years. Like, that wouldn't happen right now. And so there was a lot of guys, but those guys that I mentioned probably would be Childress, Marbury. Those are two guys at my position. And then I had to mess with Vince Carter a little bit too for a couple of years.
Man. Boy,
All right, Coach.
you
Appreciate
gotta
it, man.
lace them up tight. All right, so here's where I want to go with my dime real quick. Hey man, listen, I've been watching Beyond the Script. I've been watching you guys in there working out. I'm excited. I'm really excited for what I see. I see guys, that want to be there. I see guys that's believing in the program. So tell these guys, I've had the opportunity to see behind the scenes. Tell these guys what it's all about by signing that brick in that locker room and the things that you really making no excuses, and take us down that road if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, when I took over the program 8 years ago, the program was in a period, man, where it was in a really rough spot. The year before I got here, Pitt did not. They were the only team in Division I that was in a conference that didn't win a game, and they had 2 years where they were just like, they really, really struggled. And so I knew coming in we were inheriting that. Pitt had just finished their 4th year in the ACC, and so like, they were in a new neighborhood. Pitt is one of the original, not the original members of the Big East, but they were in that next wave. The Big East was formed, that I think maybe 2 years later, 3 years later, Pitt joined, and they had a lot of success in the Big East. That's where most of their success came from. And so I knew when I took over, it was going to be, I thought, a rebuild. After I got here and being here for about a month, I realized this is a build, because you're in a new neighborhood. You don't really know the neighborhood. The Big East and the ACC are completely different. You don't have these same rivalries and the same, opponents that you've had and things like that. And so the thing that I thought about was you want to try to build something on a solid foundation. That's what we were trying to do early, is to set a foundation. And, if you talk about building a house or building a structure, building something on a solid foundation, at least, when I was growing up, like we had brick houses. When I got the job in Oklahoma, you couldn't build a home out there unless it was brick because of the wind, because of the tornadoes and things like that. And so we came up with a thing that we want to have this be a solid foundation. I know it's going to take time to build this thing. And so what we did was that we came up with the 4 tenets of our program, but the main thing is that we're going to build it brick by brick. And everyone that we sign, they become a part of the building block, the foundation of what we're trying to do. And then it became a thing where the former players that would come back, I wanted to bring these guys back and get them back involved in the program. Again, it was in bad shape and people didn't feel great about it. And so we were able to kind of do that. It didn't happen, Lamont, to be honest with you, as fast as I wanted it to happen. My second year, at the end of my second year, there's a global pandemic. We went, I think, 16 months where we couldn't have kids in for official visits. That really hurt us because not a lot of people have been to Pittsburgh, and most people have an opinion or a thought of what they think Pittsburgh is. And so we got to get kids here, get them on campus so they can see it. So that hurt us. When the pandemic opened up, then the one-time transfer happened where you could transfer and play right away. Then NIL happened. So it's been so much. But that's the premise of the brick, trying to build a solid foundation. We felt like we had turned it 4 years ago when we got to the tournament. The year after that, I thought we were actually better. I thought we should have been a tournament team. We didn't make it. The year after that, we were a top 25 team until the middle of January. And our best player got hurt. And when he got hurt, we couldn't recover. We ended up having a winning season, so 3 straight winning seasons, but only one postseason, only one NCAA tournament. We really struggled last year. A lot of injuries and just the team wasn't put together the way that it probably should have been put together, and that's on me. And so as we set out to put this team together, we tried to be mindful of when we've had success, how we've had success, and how can we have success now. And we tried to get older. We tried to get guys with more experience of playing, not relying heavily on freshmen, but just to get older, to be more versatile, to add more depth, and hopefully, knock on wood, we can stay healthy. And if we can stay healthy, I think we have a chance to be a really good basketball team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Ikon E.
Well, you said a lot, what I'm saying, because I had all these questions running around in my head. Because one of the things was the last thing you said, I thought about over the last couple of years, it seemed like the people who run the NCAA committee for the tournament lost respect for the ACC. Because at one point we were getting 8, 9 teams in there. Now they struggle to want to put 3 or 4. So do you think it's because of expansion, or do you feel like because of the talent hasn't come as much, been like spread out more because it's NIL transfer? What do you think happened over the ACC over the last few years?
Yeah, I think it's several things. Number one, I don't think it's the talent. If you look every year, now it could be just it's one school. It's been Duke that's had like the number 1 pick or, lottery picks every year. So we end up having still more draft picks or as many draft picks as anyone and things like that. I think, I think what's happened is that the bottom of the ACC has pulled the league down. And we were a part of that. Like my first 4 years, we were not good. And we had some really bad losses in the non-conference. This past year, we helped the ACC not be as good. And it was really good. We had more teams. I think we had 6 teams in this year, maybe 7 teams in this year. But again, the bottom has to be better. The bottom has to be better. You have to win in the non-conference. You have to go out, you have to perform well in the non-conference, and you have to know your team. The thing that's hurt is that it's harder to know your team because with the way the rules are now, every year you have free agency. Even if a guy has a really good year, we had a kid 2 years ago that was third team all conference. He had one of the highest usage rates in the country. He had the ball all the time, and he decided to leave because we couldn't pay him what another school could pay him or what other schools could pay him. And so it's harder to know your team so you can schedule correctly. But I was really encouraged by what our league did this past season, and we were able to get more teams in the league. I think everyone is more mindful of that. We have to do our part in the non-conference. You know, last year we performed way better than we did the year before in the ACC SEC Challenge. 2 years ago, it was a slaughter by them. You know, so we made a lot of improvements, and hopefully we're able to sustain that going forward.
Okay, so I got a couple more questions before we let you go. One, do you think college basketball should have a commissioner? And two, do you think there's going to be a time where college basketball, well, college sports, but I'm just going to focus on college basketball, that that they may need to have like a more almost like a NBA or no more like an NFL system where the money is kind of spread out, even like a budget. Everybody can only work within this budget, because it almost seems like, I understand, like certain schools, like you got like football, you got Ohio State, and you got you got the big schools and the Miamis and whoever that can afford to buy these players. You know what I'm saying? In the college basketball, you got certain schools that can do it, where maybe so like a school like Pitt may not have the same amount of money as Duke or Carolina may have, and it's kind of like uneven the playing field. You know what I'm saying? When before NIL, y'all schools were already behind the eight ball because of the history of these schools. Now you got to fight with the money part. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, well, number one, I think we do need a commissioner. I've felt that way for the longest time. Men's college basketball is the most unique sport in college athletics, period. You know, and I say this all the time, you know, football, like Pitt football, when our football program recruits, we have to recruit against Penn State, West Virginia, obviously the schools in the ACC, right? For us in basketball, we have to compete against those schools. We're also competing against the NBA, the NBA G League, overseas, because guys can leave after 1 year. In football, you got to stay for 3 years. You got to stay in college for 3 years. In basketball, guys can leave after 1 year, and there are more opportunities. I think in football, it's only the NFL. I guess the Canadian Football League is still there monetarily. I don't know how that is now. And you have the Arena League. Again, monetarily, I don't think that that's conducive to make a guy want to leave. For us, you have all these things. And so the things with our sport are really unique. And you need people that I just don't think, and it's shown itself. The reason college athletics are in the position we're in right now, all around, is because of lack of leadership. And that's what's happened. That's why it is total chaos right now, because there has been a void of leadership for years. And when you have a void of leadership, then what happens is that it's really is that agents have taken over, and they are causing all of this chaos that's going on right now. You have all these lawsuits. You don't know who's eligible, who's not eligible. Can these guys come back? You know, and things like that. So I do think there needs to be a commissioner. I think it needs to be separate, someone that understands our sport, just like I think football needs that. So that's number one. Number two, I do think there needs to be some type of salary cap. I do think there needs to be, you know, it's not ever going to be equal. Just like you mentioned, before NIL came along, it wasn't equal because you had people that had bigger budgets, more tradition, all of those things. You know, if you look at some changes that were made in the NBA as far as their salary cap, the aprons and things like that, You know, you haven't had a repeat champion. There's been a different NBA champion the last 8 years. So there's been 8 different NBA champions. There hasn't been a repeat champion, I think, since the Miami Heat, since Braun them with Miami. Maybe Golden State. I can't remember.
State, yeah, Golden State, yeah.
But, you know, I do think there needs to be there needs to be structure. It can't be the Wild West that it is right now. You know, you mentioned maybe Duke and Carolina have way more money than us. There are a lot of teams that have way more money than us. And so there needs to be something where it's somewhat uniformed. It's still not going to be, because also you have schools that maybe just say, like, look, man, we're going all in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like right now, the Big East schools don't have football. And so all of their money from revenue share can go to basketball. So what's happening right now is that, like, some of the Big East schools, and they're smart for doing this, but what they're doing in recruiting is that they're telling the kids' parents, kids' agents, we can give you guaranteed money because here's our budget, and it's a big number. Whereas a school like us, you have football and you have basketball. So that money, it's not split evenly because most of it's going to football at these places. At the Power Four, most of the money is going to football. Then basketball is getting some. Then what you have to depend on is the third party, which is the legit NIL, the businesses and things like that. And then some people have advantages. You know, if you're at, let's say, like the University of Arkansas, the state of Arkansas does not have a professional team, and they don't have another high major university in the whole state of Arkansas. And so the University of Arkansas is like their pro team. It's everything. Whereas for us, I'm in a city with the Steelers, the Penguins, and the Pirates. And so those businesses may not give us the money because they're already doing business with them. It's like when I was the head coach at Oklahoma, I think my third year there, Seattle moved to Oklahoma City. They became the Thunder. And then what happened was that there started to be competing dollars for who's going to buy season tickets. Are you going to buy season tickets to the Thunder or to OU basketball? Because you're going to OU football. Like, you're getting season tickets there. So then it became Oklahoma State, University of Oklahoma, or the Thunder. And so the revenue for basketball at the University of Oklahoma and at Oklahoma State and the attendance was severely affected. And so you have all these things that are in play. And so I think there needs to be a commissioner, certainly, that understands that. And then if you have a commissioner, then hopefully we're able to get some uniformity where at least we know the rules are the same for everyone.
All right, well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on tonight. I'm going to just say this. John Calipari a sneaky bastard because he knew what he was doing going to Kentucky and Arkansas. And I'm glad Coach Capel broke that down because, boy, them Italians, boy, they some sneaky jokers, boy. Yeah. Yes, sir. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but yeah, Coach, just like you said, man, I appreciate you, man. Nothing but love. You know that. And just thank you for always answering the call when we send that note. It means the world.
Yeah, well, anytime you need me, you know I'm here. And I appreciate you guys having me on. When Lamont hit me, it was a no-brainer. Just whenever I could do it. We just got back, my wife and I, so this was the perfect time. And I'm really grateful to be on with you guys.
We appreciate
it. Yes, sir. So everybody subscribe to 910 SNE. This will be on CW22. This will be on Augusta 54. Probably either this month or probably in September episodes. But we definitely want to appreciate Coach coming on, giving us the time, and the fact that he's a hometown hero. So that means a lot to me, you know what I'm saying, for us to have him on here. I've been super excited about this interview for the last, month. I told him the mistake he made is went to the wrong school, but other than that, we love him. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Take care. Peace.
All right.
Peace.